Welcome along to my full review of the Logitech G Pro racing wheel and pedals. I've been using this kit for the last couple of weeks or so. If you haven't seen it already, I've already put out an unboxing and a first impressions video, but today I'm going to give you my unfiltered thoughts. Shout out to Logitech for sponsoring the video and also, of course, sending me the equipment. Now, I will say though, I have full creative control. They have no say whatsoever in what I say, so I can say anything I want and I will. Let's get into it. So, starting out with the pros of the wheelbase itself then, of course, it is pretty heavy. I can't promise I will hold it the whole time. 11 Newton meters of torque. Overall, genuinely a good quality wheelbase. The force feedback itself is very strong and detailed. Certainly, if you're coming from one of Logitech's older wheels, you will not be disappointed in this one. Also, I really like the screen that you get on the front of it. I think that's very intuitive. I love that you can customize a lot of settings and it's just obvious. There's no kind of codes or abbreviations there. It's just really intuitive, really obvious, really easy to work with, so I love that. I also love that they've got a USB hub on the back, so of course the pedals can plug straight into the back of the hub, as well as any potential shifters or anything like that. Any Logitech accessories can be plugged into it, or at least wheel accessories. They're a bit vague on that front. I love the way that works. Rather than forcing you to use lots of ports on your computer, I love that it just goes straight into the wheelbase. The desk clamp as well is actually really, really solid. I've been really impressed with this thing. I did try it on my desk that I'm sat in front of right now and had no issues whatsoever. A direct drive wheel with 11 Newton meters of torque should have some issues being bolted to a desk, especially just an IKEA desk like mine. And honestly, if I didn't have my rig, I'd be happy to use it on my desk. Overall, the desk clamp, yeah, really impressed with that. Despite being a high torque direct drive wheel, it actually worked really well. Getting into some of the drawbacks then of the wheelbase itself. To be honest, the True Force feedback system, which is supposed to be almost like a next generation of force feedback. It's Logitech's own technology that's supposed to be possibly a bit more detailed or just a newer way or a different way of getting force feedback at the game. Dunno. Didn't make an impression on me. I didn't feel like it made a massive difference. I think the True Force system possibly has got its merits. I don't know if perhaps it might be better on their lower end gear driven wheels and perhaps it doesn't apply too well to their direct drive wheels. In a direct drive configuration though, I don't know. For me, wasn't really much better than anything else. I will say as well, the wheelbase is a plastic focused design. It doesn't look bad as such, but there is just a lot of plastic there. But that's just sort of the Logitech way. I mean, I've got premium Logitech peripherals here as well. I've got MX keys and the MX mouse. They are primarily plastic as well, but it's up to you whether you like that or not. But as I said, overall the quality doesn't particularly suffer, but it is just a plastic look. I also didn't love that the USB cable is micro USB. Obviously, that's quite an old tech, and normally I've actually for years returned all my tech that came with a micro USB. What I will say in favor of it is it's quite a sort of custom head to it, so it slots really nicely into the base to stop it wiggling around. So although it is micro USB, you know, would I be even bringing it up if it was a proprietary port? I don't know. Just make it USB-C. You know, that also means that in the future, if the cable does break, you can get a USB-C cable, whereas micro USB, it's been on the way out for years. I feel like maybe we could have just done with USB-C on such a premium wheel. One other tiny nitpick with the wheelbase was that there was no mounting bolts in the box. For such an expensive wheelbase, I kind of just hoped for a couple of, you know, it probably cost them like 50p extra, just to put in a couple of bolts that work really nicely. That being said, of course, not all bolts would work for your rig, but at least if you put in some, it might work for half of your customers at least, or maybe even, you know, 75% of your customers. I don't know. I just felt like we could have done with some mounting bolts in the box. Moving on to the rim and the pros of this thing. Now, I will say this is a nice rim. You probably saw from my unboxing video, when I very first got it out of the box, I was like, yeah, okay, that's nice. I'd say it's probably Logitech's most premium and nice looking wheel that they've ever made. So I'm definitely a big fan of this rim. I also love that it's a removable rim. It's Logitech's actually first rim that you can remove from the wheelbase. It doesn't mean much for now, but fingers crossed that does mean they've got some more rims coming. They're magnetic shifters, which means they've got a really good clunk. Have a listen to these. It's just got a really nice satisfying clunk. They do feel really solid and premium. I also really like the clutch paddles on this rim. They can be customized with the wheelbase setting. You can use the paddles themselves as a throttle and brake, which again, I really like. So definitely big thumbs up there on the accessibility of this wheel rim. A couple of cons though with this rim. The stitching on the inside here, it's just a little bit hard on your hand because it is just a little bit sort of almost scratchy there. The quick release system as well, although I love that it exists, for some reason it just doesn't feel that premium. I don't know. Once it is in there, it is really, really solid. I can easily pick the wheel up. You can see there, it's not moving around at all. So I haven't really got any worries about once it's attached. It just doesn't feel too premium when you do attach it. But as I said, that could just be a bit of a one-off and obviously quite a small thing if that is the only downside to it being perhaps feeling a little bit cheaper as you attach it. So moving on to the pros of the pedals now. And for me, the star of the show. Already just looking at them with the light reflecting off from there, you can see they are really nicely designed. Everything about them, even down to the springs at the back, of course you've got the load cell in the middle there, they are just really, really nice pedals. I will say this spring-loaded throttle, I wasn't sure about that at first, but I actually feel like it is an advantage. I thought, well, it's a bit weird having a pedal that gets progressively stiffer for the throttle. It doesn't really make any sense. But actually, having used them, I've changed my mind. I think I'm actually quicker with a sprung-loaded throttle. It does get a little bit firmer as you press it down. That gives you a feel for how hard you're pressing it. And it allows your muscle memory to build up a little bit more. So obviously you generally try and do the same thing lap after lap once you reach a sort of limit in racing games. And the sprung throttle allows you just to be on that limit a lot more, be a lot more consistent. The pedals can also be customized really, really nicely. You can move them side to side, so you can have them however far apart you want. You can take them out, so if you want to take the clutch pedal out, if you want to drive Formula cars, you can do that and then just have a throttle and brake there. I honestly don't think there's any further customization that I could possibly want with a set of racing pedals. I also love that the pedals were USB-A by default. Now that is good because you can plug it directly in your computer. If you wanted to perhaps use a different wheelbase and use these pedals, you can do that. Or because we've got that USB hub in the back of the wheelbase, you can plug it straight into the wheelbase. It's just so much easier to work with. I really like the way they designed it in that way. Quite a small one as well, but I really like that it's got a flat back, which means that if you are using it with a wheel clamp on a desk, you can just press the pedals against the wall. You don't have to have them bolted down or anything like that. It's got a really nice flat back. When I was sat here using the pedals, I didn't struggle at all. They didn't move at all because they were just against the wall. There was no problem whatsoever with that. Moving on to the load cell then, and the reason I've left it this late in the pros is because personally, I'm not convinced. Now, this is nothing to do with Logitech. This is just load cells in general. Personally, I prefer a pedal that judges the distance of travel over a load cell, which judges the amount of force put into the wheel. Now, of course, in real life, it's all about force. The harder the driver presses the brake pedal, the more brakes they get. It's not about pedal travel at all. Personally, for me, I'm not a fan of load cells. My logic is games tend to have a limit, particularly the F1 game, on how hard you can press the pedal, as in how much braking effort the car will do. A load cell, although that also has a hard limit, it's harder to feel. The detection of the force might be at its limit. Your computer might be told, yes, 100% brake. You can still press it a bit harder. Whereas with a potentiometer brake, which is based on travel, you can feel the end of the brake much easier. I want to be able to feel where that limit of 100% brake is hit 100% and then decide when I want to ease off from 100%. With a load cell, I was struggling to feel where that 100% was because it was based on force, not based on a physical hard limit necessarily. Now I think in certain games when you don't go to 100% travel, I think load cell would be better. Something like iRacing where you probably don't want to go to 100% brake very often, if at all, load cell probably works because you just get a much better feel, and I will definitely admit that for iRacing. And also I spoke to an ex-F1 performance engineer who goes by the name of Break. Shout out to him, and he basically told me that pretty much all of the real life F1 factory simulators do use some form of load cell pedals. He actually said that some teams even have it hooked up to a master cylinder and an actual sort of brake caliper to get the feel really right. If those guys think it's okay and F1 teams themselves use load cell pedals, I'm happy to be wrong on this. I think most people would say, yeah, what are you talking about, Alex? Load cell is loads better. Anyway, any of you guys, do put down in the comments your thoughts on load cells if you have used them before. Now, in terms of negatives for these pedals, I will say I had to try and find some negatives for these because they are really very good. I will say this heel plate here is possibly a little bit cheap. Once again, they've gone for plasticky, just like they did with the wheelbase. That just seems to be the Logitech way of doing things. You can hear there it has got some sort of grooves to it. It doesn't feel slippy. It's not bad. I just feel like, because it's plastic, it's not going to be that hard wearing. And of course, this is where your heel will be controlling the pedals. This is an area of high wear. The only other drawback I can come up with these pedals is they're very long. It's just out the back here. This bit in particular, this is actually where all the cables are housed, but perhaps they could have designed it in a slightly smarter way. For me personally, it didn't make a difference how long they were. I definitely just think limo pedals could possibly be a bad thing, depending on your particular setup. So there we go then, that was my thoughts on each individual part of the Logitech G Pro racing wheel. and pedals. And let's now get into possible reasons to buy. I'd say, first of all, if you do buy this wheel, you will not be disappointed. At no point did I feel like this was a low quality product. Every single part of this feels well built, it feels well designed, and it feels premium. One of the reasons to buy, of course, is that it's just made by Logitech. Their warranties should be good, their customer service should be good. I wouldn't be expecting too many stock shortages. Also, if you have used previous Logitech wheels like I have, this will be a big step up. Of course, Logitech, this is their first direct drive wheel. So if you're currently on a Logitech, G29 or whatever it may be, and you're considering upgrading to Logitech's latest wheel, it will be a big step up. It will be an enormous step up. Moving on to reasons to possibly avoid then. First of all, that there's no other rims to go with it at the moment. Of course, they have got the quick release system, so surely there is more rims coming, but right now there's no rims, in particular, no Formula rims. So if you're all about the F1 game or just Formula games in general, there is no Formula rim at all available right now. But, this is still early days. Hopefully they've got more rims coming. But as of right now, there is just the one rim that you can buy. Another little nitpick for reasons to avoid was the software. The Logitech G Hub did crash a few times. I mean, it did work. It did manage to update the firmware. It did manage to change a few settings, but then it just kept crashing. And I don't know if that was perhaps me getting unlucky on the day, or that's a sign of the software in general. But what I will say I actually ended up doing is uninstalling the Logitech G software because I just didn't need it. You can adjust all the settings directly on the wheel, and the actual software inside the wheel itself has been flawless. So possibly their G Hub does need improving, but as I said, since uninstalling it, I've had no issues whatsoever. So take that with a pinch of salt. And the final reason to avoid, we're going to call it the elephant in the room, which is why I've left it until the end, is the price. Now, £1,350 is what it costs, British pounds, to buy this whole set. The pedals are £350 and the wheelbase itself is about £1,000. This is far from the cheapest direct drive wheel on the market. Now, what I will say is the pedal price, £350 for the pedals, I actually think is okay. I actually think that's reasonable. They are very, very good pedals. If you're looking for a set of load cell pedals, I don't think you'll be disappointed with the Logitech pedals for £350. I actually think that is reasonable. The base though, you do get other features that other wheels may not offer. Magnetic shifters being one and load cell being another. Those features don't tend to be standard on other wheels, and they are completely standard here. But should you buy it over a very similar wheel that's going to be a similar standard for hundreds of pounds less? I don't know. That one's got to be up to you guys. Just shop around, see what you think, compare it to other things. I do feel like it's priced a little bit too highly. I don't know what they can do about that, whether they can just straight up go, do you know what, we'll take a profit hit, let's drop the prices, or whether they can bring out perhaps a new rim or new pedals that don't come with the load cell magnetic shifters. Those two in particular are normally premium features. It is a very solid wheel, and as I said, if you do buy it, you will not be disappointed. You will get it and you'll go, this is amazing, the quality is incredible, it feels amazing to drive. Let's just see if they stick with the price or if they drop it at all. Anyway guys, hopefully you enjoyed this little series of videos. Another shout out as well to Logitech for providing me with the kit and also sponsoring these 3 videos. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I've got lots more content just like this coming out very, very soon. Loving that guys. I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.